Hey, what's up, friend? You are you interested in lack of skill? Yeah. Or maybe some suck. I'm just a new guy for the love of game. Wait, don't go. I know it's bad. Times have changed, but not by mad. Don't you know that games are my thing? Yeah, I know it's getting real late. Come on, look at me. I even do storytelling. Also, podcasts on great game subjects. Okay, yeah, I'm not a Markiplier or a PewDiePie. But hey, that's what makes me so unique, right? Right? And hello everybody, my name is NikoTheLegend, also known as the well-mannered teenager, the snowflake, the rambling idiot, and Vigil. And guess what? I got John back on somehow. He agreed to get on with this crazy guy with the Niko show. So I got the great John Paul Hayward. He is known for, this is my first time ever doing these most notable things for you, John, and actually anybody that I've had on the show before. He is well known for his orchestrated albums. Sorry if I butcher it. For Cross Symphonic, which is actually, it's funny. Chrono Cross brings us back here, John. But he's most known for Cross Symphonic, a symphonic tribute to Chrono Cross, fantastic album. And then one of his most latest, if not the latest, is Generations, a symphonic tale. As you can tell, I didn't reread this over countless times. So, yeah, John, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me back on the show. I thought after the last one I was blacklisted for sure.
No. Once I get you in once, you're trapped forever. You're in the list pretty much. You're on the VIP list. And I go down, I'm like, all right, it starts over again. Now we're back on top with you. So let's get your plugs in, John, real quick, and then I hope I said the albums properly. I hope I did a good job on that. Okay, so where can people find you, John?
Well, the best place to find my music would be Spotify or Bandcamp. It's on all the streaming platforms though, so Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, iTunes. I think it's even on some of the more obscure ones like Deezer's, Tidal, etc., etc. Basically, anywhere music can be streamed, you can find me. You can search for my name or any of the aforementioned albums. And
Yeah, this is, this is great, John, because I think we met online for the first time or did this show around this time of the year, or maybe like in March or in April, but getting close. So
it was somewhere around the release of Cross Symphonic back in 2019. So it would have been sometime around the new year, yeah. Yeah,
and then last year is when we did the podcast together, and it was sometime around this time. Okay. You know what? Let me. Oh God. I actually had this page. Okay, we're doing this in real time. I'm gonna see exactly the date where it all happened. Okay. So John and I are just going to be literally talking about Chrono Cross. Just Chrono Cross 101. So if anybody's listening out there on Spotify, watching this on YouTube, checking me out on all other platforms, the links will be down below. Shameless plugs already. It might be a boring episode. It might not. Might not be.
I hope not.
It's like Chrono Cross is talking about one fucking game. Who is this guy? Okay, so it's funny. This episode we did, it was episode 81. We're on what are we on? We're about to be on 107. Or this is 107. So it premiered April 19th of last year. So coincidentally, that's when Chrono Cross Remastered comes out, the Radical Dreamers Edition, April 7th. So put that in your calendars. So I'm gonna really enjoy this conversation we had together, John, because this is just, like I said to you earlier, this is just us just nerdgasming. This is us just having a bit of a celebration, kind of like holding up our beer mugs, and Valhalla or something, and just finally we get a W from a company who has been, Square Enix has had such a crazy track record on how they release old games. I mean, for example, Chrono Trigger, the latest release was only on PC and it was a shitty mobile port, so they kind of desecrated the franchise already. And then the weird marketing strategy, and you know as well as I do, John, of having pixel remasters of Final Fantasy old games 1 through 6 only on PC and not on consoles. And then Chrono Cross, the fucking curveball of all time from this company, is
Right.
releasing it on all consoles and PC. So I have no fucking clue what they're doing over there. I don't know who does the sales pitch, what Shark Tank people they have, but it's crazy. So, go ahead.
I've heard rumors, and granted, this is just like Reddit gossip, that the pixel remasters being only on PC and mobile is like a beta test for them.
Oh,
As soon as they get all the kinks and the bugs worked out, that it'll see a console release. So fingers crossed on that. It kind of makes sense though, because they rebuilt them from the ground up, whereas Chrono Cross seems to be more of a port that's been run through some filters and a couple features added through the back end.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm glad you let me know, because that does make sense. I wish they were just more transparent about it, but...
I mean, obviously, I don't know if that's true. It could never come to consoles, but I think that's a huge missed opportunity, both in terms of just business opportunity and in terms of, like, fan retention. So
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back. I think the last time people were able to play, let's just say, Final Fantasy VI. I don't remember if it ever re-released on the PS3, like on the shop or something. But with
well, they did those like they weren't really remakes.
No, they were like the anthology, the Chronicles.
Well, but they did another one. But again, it was PC and mobile only. It never
Oh,
came out.
yeah.
They updated the sprites and they did those weird like 3D town models on the world map.
It is terrible.
It wasn't my favorite. I did end up playing through it, and I didn't hate it. It still has the 6 magic that you know and love, but they certainly didn't look the way you wanted them to.
No, they didn't even get the portraits right, like the hair colors and everything. I had to download a mod when I was playing Final Fantasy VI on Steam, and God, that's just lazy ports right there.
I am playing through the pixel remasters though, and I have to say, other than I have to play them on my PC, which I hate. I'm not a PC gamer. They're really well done. I really enjoy them. The new music, the drawn sprites, the new backgrounds, everything. They've been really fun, and they're perfect for an old person like me that's like, I don't have time to game anymore, and I need to take a nap between battles. You just hit auto battle, let it do itself.
You know what? That auto battles are in Chrono Cross Remaster too. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw that. I also saw no encounter mode, which I was like, that's an interesting choice.
All right, they're listening to you, John. They're like, John's gonna get that nap time. He is a busy man.
Oh well, the one that was really nice. I guess this is off topic, but Final Fantasy IX, the auto battle in Final Fantasy IX was amazing because that game, when it first came out, had the slowest battle.
Yes. It did.
Progression frame. I mean, you were 30 seconds to get into the battle, and the animations themselves just were so slow.
Yeah.
I tried to replay that before they announced the remaster. I was actually replaying it on the PS3 Virtual Console. Yeah. And I literally did fall asleep in the battles. Not even joking.
Yeah. So, I had my when I was engaged at that time, I had my fiance. I had her play it on the PS1, and it was the first game she ever beat. And this was maybe, I would say, a year before the Final Fantasy Remaster came out. I can't tell you how much I was like stalking the Steam page or the news page or whatever from Square Enix of like when this game is going to release, like the FF9 Remaster. And I was so glad it came out, and so eventually I bought it for PC, PS4, and my Switch, and I'm like, yes, this is great. And I like everything about that game is great. So leading to Chrono Cross Remaster, they well, I guess we'll just say what the remaster is. So Chrono Cross Remaster Radical Dreamers Edition, everybody. In case you didn't know, I did a video to explain all that, but if it's your first time listening to me on here, and John, well, welcome. Is a well, I don't know. I want to say this is like the ultimate edition of Chrono Cross because not only that you're getting this game and they're trying to make things look more clear and crisp, HD, which sometimes can go either way, especially like old Final Fantasy games like 7 through 9 with the photorealistic backgrounds. They don't look too well at times. They look big. They can look dated, but you glaze over it. With I got old eyes, you got old eyes, John. Whatever.
Yeah.
So with this though, I'm kind of hoping that they do a bit better with the photorealistic backgrounds. It does take a lot more work to make that look nice. But the character models do look nicer, and it's great that you have an option between the old and the new. I mean, even if you pick the old, it still looks new because it's HD, so, you get to have A or B. So anyway, I say this is the Ultimate Edition because it looks like they're doing a decent enough job to make me want to buy it, cautiously optimistic. This is Square Enix we're talking about. And then you get the first time ever coming to the States is the Radical Dreamers game, which is just literally a text-based game, which it was pretty much Chrono Cross is built off of. So I think that's great. I think that's just that's a really nice thing that they did. They didn't have to do it because, like I said, this is Square Enix we're talking about here. They make weird business decisions. So that's what gets me excited. I mean, the game has a subtitle to it now. It took them 20 plus years, but it's got a subtitle. It took them 20 plus years to re-release this game. It's been sleeping deep in the ocean underneath the Chrono Trigger iceberg for so long because Chrono Trigger got so much love and attention, which I understand why. But still, it's like don't forget about
I'm one of the vocal minority there because personally, I mean, don't get me wrong, love Chrono Trigger to death. It was the first one. And I did grow up playing it on the Super Nintendo. But I have to say, I think that I probably enjoy Cross more than I enjoy Trigger. I know that's like a sin for most people.
Oh, God!
So, but the remaster looks great. Just the thing that I haven't seen that I'm most curious about online is if they've redrawn the backgrounds to be 16:9 or not.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I think it's going to be like 9 remaster where they had, because if you watch the trailer, they got like specific borders for it. I think they're just going to keep it that way.
I wondered simply because they did that with the Pixel remasters. I mean, they got full 16:9 support, and there's no way you can stretch those, so they had to have redrawn them. I was curious if they had put that into Chrono Cross or not.
Well, when I did the videos, I don't think it ever talked about the format, the aspect ratio and stuff. But you know what? Well, it's still fresh news. It's about a week old or a week and a half now. So they're always showing stuff on their Twitter page.
Well, they put out a list recently of the things that they've improved upon. Yeah. And it's not listed there, and I actually just pulled up some screen grabs, and you're absolutely right. They've got that border on every single screen grab. So I think you're probably right. Nothing got redrawn, which, it's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world. It's still Chrono Cross on modern consoles.
I was going to say, this
can't be mad about.
Yeah. The only time we can be mad about it is when they treat it like a shit poor port from, Chrono Trigger coming to Steam, almost half a dozen. That was horrendous. Like, that was a bad idea on their part. So shame on them. And it's still not that great with all whatever updates they did. So I always, if you're ever gonna play Chrono Trigger, just emulate it either on the Super Nintendo or the PlayStation 1, because you gotta get those.
I still have
or the DS
cartridge for Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So
every Chrono Trigger cartridge.
Yeah, that's amazing. You better keep that and never tell anybody but me. I'll just bleep this all out. This is all censored. Nobody hears this. VPNs, private VPNs. So, every version of Chrono Trigger is good besides the PC port. Maybe they did a good job with the mobile port. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But the PlayStation, the DS, and the Super Nintendo, they're awesome. Like, they did a fantastic job because they always kept adding more cool things to it, which I liked. So,
See that's again where I'm in the minority. Where the additions, I struggle so much with them. Uh,
okay. The animated cutscenes, did you like those?
I did like those. Those
Okay.
were cool.
All right.
No problem with those. But like the extra dungeon and stuff they added in the DS version it felt like a random dungeon generated off of tile sets with no real purpose.
Oh
And
shoot! See, I never got
it
that
didn't
far to play the.
it,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
it didn't ever feel like it felt hollow and like a cash grab. Like, hey, we've added more content, but we didn't really try.
It was an
But I don't know.
afterthought.
People seem to love them, and it was the same thing with the Game Boy re-releases of the Final Fantasy games. They added in
Oh
all the
yeah,
extra
yeah, yeah.
content and
Yeah.
extra dungeons, and everybody, that's like the number one complaint on the Pixel remasters is they're like, well, where's all our extra content? And I'm like, finally, they got rid of that trash. But, that's me.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be fair, there were some cool additions like the extra jobs in Final Fantasy V or the extra espers in 6. Those were cool additions, but like the extra dungeon stuff, I don't know. And I've heard a lot of people kind of not really upset, but maybe bemoaning that the Chrono Cross remaster doesn't look like they've added any post-game content. Or I've even heard some people go as far to say, "I can't believe they didn't rework the end of the game," and things like that. I just think that's a huge ask, and honestly,
It is.
I wouldn't think that it would go across well. It would come across well in the end.
Oh, see, you see what he just did? He did no pun intended. You see that? He said across. See, anyway,
Gotcha.
sorry. All right.
I really didn't intend that one. I didn't even pick up on it.
So,
No.
all right. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, given that the original team I don't even think there's anybody left at Square that worked on Chrono Cross originally. So given that they're gone,
Besides Yoshinori Mitsuda, but he's not working for Square.
he doesn't work for Square. I mean, he's still around. I mean, a lot of these guys are still around. They just don't work for Square. They're either freelance or they've moved on to other companies.
Yeah, good reason to not work for them.
So, they could potentially get them back to come work on the game, but given that Square usually outsources a lot of its ports and things like that to other companies,
Yeah, they do.
I think that what they've done here is the best possible outcome, honestly. I mean, they brought Yasunori Mitsuda back to update the music, which I'm super excited to see what he's done there. I really hope we get some live recordings for some things.
Yeah. There's brand new song or plural, and then he's pretty much modernizing the music. I think he's just remastering the music as well, so it sounds not old anymore.
Which is I'm perfectly fine with. There are a few places though that if he threw in some live instruments that he recorded, I wouldn't complain. You know?
He might. Yeah, you never know. I could see it in like the opening, like Scars of Time or something, or I could see it in the credits or something like that. But you know what? It's great that we have a choice of old, that you can pick the music of old or new. Just like how they did it.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's
fantastic.
That's the thing. I was gonna say about what you said earlier, that I actually was having like an inner monologue with myself, kind of getting ready for the podcast. I actually got a comment from a guy who, I'm just gonna be nice, I'm not gonna say his name, whatever, but if he's listening, he knows who he is. He pretty much listed some of the things that you were talking about, like people were complaining about, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, and I'll read those after I say this. People just need to take the W for once, okay? Now, I'm not saying don't go into this, with blind optimism. I say be cautiously optimistic because this is Square Enix. They have a reputation for being really iffy with remasters. Or, it's like a mixed bag. Like you get the Trials of Mana remake, and I think they did a pretty good job with that. And then you get the Final Fantasy VII remake, and I'm like, okay, it was a fun game, but I would have just been fine with 7 Classic, just with better graphics. Everything kept the same. Yep. Like that was me.
I'm with you there. Again, minority, but
one of
those guys is guilty of nostalgia goggles. So.
and then you had crappy Steam ports, and then of like Final Fantasy games of old, and then pixel remasters only being on PC. So they're weird. They're really fucking weird. And then don't forget how Dragon Quest X Online, I'm just throwing this out there, is only in Japan, and they're making an offline version that's only in Japan. I'm like, can you bring this to the States already? What the fuck? So anyway, because they have Final Fantasy everywhere else, 14 and 11 online in entire globe. I don't understand why Dragon Quest X is like real like, Japan only. I don't know. It's weird.
Right.
And they keep re-releasing it. It's on the Switch now. So it's like, come on. Because all I hear is great things about Dragon Quest X online. So anyway, yeah, I'm just saying, my point is what I'm trying to make through the rambling is that you get to see Chrono Trigger again. It's brought back to life. You got
Chrono Cross.
Chrono. See, I'm Chrono triggered right now. All right, good save. So Chrono Cross gets to come back from the dead, resuscitated, reanimated, whatever. As soon as I saw this being announced at a fucking Nintendo Direct of all places, everybody thought it was gonna be announced at a PlayStation conference because that's all you heard. They're like, oh, let's get a remake on the PS5 and it's only coming out for the PS5. Wrong. Psych.
And let's talk about how it's on Xbox.
Yeah, exactly. I always think it's interesting to see a Final Fantasy game on Xbox. I'm like, oh, well, okay, it's good because a lot of JRPGs really companies really shaft Microsoft quite a bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or the Xbox. So yeah, I'm glad that it's going on it all at the same day, which is awesome. So yeah, this is, and I said this in a couple videos I made before this, that this is great. It's finally here. It's like I don't know if Square Enix listened to the people, the fans demanding this, because I was one of those people that have tweeted them before, be like, hey, it'd be great if we got a Chrono Remaster collection or whatever. And then blam, here we are, and this is something I'm proud of, or something I'm excited about, and I'll take that. Now, that's not necessarily saying like, okay, there's always a possibility that they could still screw it up, all right, when it comes out, right? So I'm not saying be on the lookout or don't be on the lookout for that, but I'm just saying it's here. It's here.
I agree with you.
It's happening.
Take the win.
Yeah, don't be a sore winner.
There's been a lot of people complaining online, being like, well, why didn't you do this and this and how come this and this? And I'm like,
oh my God, so spoiled.
Play it first and see if it really is, the things that you don't think it is. Play it first.
Yeah.
And then second of all, like you say, take the win. I mean, when's the last time Chrono Cross got attention for anything?
Nothing.
Like we got the official Square album, orchestral album for Trigger and Cross in 2019.
That was great.
And that's like, before that, the last time I can think about hearing an official anything about Chrono Cross was when it came out. In 1999. So it's been what, 15 years since we've heard anything about this game?
Yeah, and it's been 20 plus years since it last released. They never re-released this to any other console. I think people need to realize that. Chrono Trigger has been released on multiple other platforms, So that's when you go, oh yeah, that's right, And look, if they screw this up, okay, then I'll be disappointed and screw you, Square. But right?
Well, let's dive into that for a second. How are they going to screw it up? Because from my understanding and everything that I've read, they haven't changed anything to the base game.
No, they haven't. So this is okay. So let's
gameplay wise, the cheats aside, nothing's different. It's going to play like Chrono Cross. It's going to have the same broken elemental system that's just fun to exploit.
Yeah.
It's going to have the same damage calculator and weapons that eventually just become more powerful than magic, and you can just spam X or A or whatever you're playing on and win every battle, with the exception of, those two non-spoiler battles that are actually require a little bit of thought in the game. But so basically the only thing that they've really changed is they've given you the option to have brand new redrawn models, which were redrawn by
the same guy.
The original character designer, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
Oh, it's hard.
I can.
It's hard. I've tried.
So and then they've given us new music, like you mentioned, and all remastered by the original composer.
Oh,
and
so great.
Mitsuda has an awesome track record for everything he does. I don't know how he's going to ever mess that up.
Yeah, this guy probably. Man.
Yeah. So and then Square even gave us the option, which this actually surprised me, to switch between old and new graphics.
Yes, because they were
huge.
Yeah, they were giving actual shit about purists, okay?
Well, not only that, but it proves to me anyway, and I wouldn't go out and say that I'm like a big Square defender at this point. I think that Square should be held accountable when they mess up, but I also think that the gaming community is extremely toxic and entitled about these type of things.
Sure
too.
as fuck is.
But it shows me that Square is at least listening from the past ports like Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, where people did complain about the new character models, and they're like, I like the old ones better. And here we are. They've given us now the option to be like, well, if you like the old ones, they're still here, which I think is really cool. Now, the one thing that I have a little bit of a reservation about, and
let's hear this.
I don't even know. This is a small thing, and I'm sure there's a technical reason for this, but it seems to be all or nothing. Whether you have old graphics or new graphics, you can't mix and match. So, like me, for example, I'm not a big fan of the new font. I think it's kind of ugly. But I also like the new character models. So I'd like to be able to use the old font with new character models. The way that it was, the way that it's portrayed is it's all or nothing. You have to do either all the new models and font, or all of the old models and font. And that's a really small gripe.
But here's the thing: if you switch to the old models, it's still gonna be nice and clean and HD. So
yeah, I saw somebody online talking about that.
You win either way.
They're like, it's a little disingenuous for them to show side-by-side comparisons because they're still filtered and HD upscaled, the old models, and they're comparing them to the newly redrawn models. It's not a fair A and B comparison. So people look at that and they're like, I don't see that big of an improvement. Like, well, yeah, because you're already seeing something that's been modernized versus the original PS1 graphics where Surge's head is one giant pixel. So
yeah, they're pretty much just showing a side by side of like, hey, you want this or that? This is
right.
The HDA or HDB, right? Old, new HD. It's a little confusing. I get that. It's a little bit bad on the PR part. But hopefully they
could have made a much bigger splash if they had taken an actual PS1 screenshot and been like, see, this is what it was. Now look at it. And then everybody would be like, wow, they've really cleaned that up. The problem is Cross is actually one of the few PS1 games that you can get looking really nice through emulation and mods.
Yeah.
Like you like PS2 level nice. And so Square has to live up to that now because everybody's emulated this thing. They know what it can look like. And if Square pumps out something where they've got blurry backgrounds and crisp HD character models, people are gonna be mad. And I'm pretty sure that the backgrounds probably are not gonna be as nice as the AI upscaled stuff that you see on the modding forums.
No.
Personally, I'm one of those people. I'm like, I don't really care that much because I understand what this is. I understand when it was made. It's not a new game.
No,
and for heaven's sakes, they're only charging $20 for this thing. I would have paid $60 for this thing.
Oh yeah. If they're like, hey everybody, we're also gonna be throwing like a $200 edition, I'm like, cha-ching, let's fucking go. Like there's only so many games. Yeah, there's only so many games that I would like give up like an arm and a leg, and Chrono Cross is definitely up there.
Hardcore same. I mean, I saw this when it came out, and I looked at it, I'm like, $20. All right. I bought it on Xbox. I bought it on Steam.
Really?
I bought it on Nintendo Switch. And I'm probably going to buy it on PS4. So,
yeah, you just did like a Ganondorf, like, ha, 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 ha. I was like, John, what are you doing? You got to compose. What's going on? Sorry.
I love this game. It's one of my favorites. And, supporting this thing, even if it's not great, I understand you don't want to reward a lazy port. If it is in fact a lazy port, you should say something constructive, not just go out there and trash them, because all that makes them do is not want to do anything for fans. If you have genuine constructive criticism and you can present it well, then you absolutely should present your constructive criticism to Square. But supporting this remaster is only going to benefit us Chrono fans in the long run, because if we show them that, man, we are hungry and thirsty for some content,
we're gonna eat this
up. We might get a new game.
Yeah, you might get like an actual legit fucking dope ass Chrono Trigger Pixel remaster for consoles, for fuck's sake. Or
you
something.
Might finally. Everybody's been asking for the Octopath remake for Chrono Trigger. You might finally get that.
Yeah, because guess what?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because they're doing that with Live Alive or Live Alive or whatever, right? That's the HD. That's
Live
a 3.
Alive, Live Alive.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting title.
English is hard.
But then yeah, I can say Yashinori Mitsudo 3 times, but I can't say that. But here's the thing. Dragon Quest 3 is getting the 3D or the 2D HD 3D whatever remake treatment too, like Octopath Traveler, and it looks fucking awesome. So they could really do a great job. And then the pixel remasters for I have Final Fantasy IV pixel remaster, and I thought it was awesome what they did with it. So they could do it. They could do it with the pixel games. They can do it. And then with like honestly, I'm just. Like I said, I'm just happy that this thing fucking exists. I'm happy that I can finally play this in HD and not through...
With achievements!
Yeah, exactly! With fucking achievements! With fucking achievements! They're like, okay, you gotta get all 9 endings. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna kill myself. You have to let kid die 5 times and not feel anything.
I know. You get the achievement when you don't shed a tear after abandoning her at the orphanage.
Oof, I'll sacrifice kid anytime for Glenn.
See, I can't do it, man. I mean, I can't do it.
I can count on one hand the amount of times I've done that for Glenn. In fact,
I can count on one finger the amount of times I've sacrificed Kid for Glenn. It pained me. I couldn't do it.
Well,
Hurt me right in my soul.
There's a way to where she can live, and then you can get Glenn. You just have to be a dick for a while, pretty much.
Well, I mean, she lives no matter what. She's crucial to the story, but even denying her. At,
I know. At first time played.
Beginning of the game, it's a Pinnacle Rock. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, you just say no.
Yeah, you just say no like 3 times, and then she huffs and puffs away. And that's how you get lean.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, but that's so cool though, because
it is cool.
Because that's the whole fucking point of the game. You made that simple decision, well, supposedly simple on the surface, but it's so complex that it just completely just changed the the outlook or how the game's gonna be played or who you get, which I really like. And there's multiple times in the game where you're like, oh, do I want guitar? Do I want Nikki? Do I want Fisherman Boy? Do I want Magician Man? Do I want Pierre guy, right? There's like branching paths that are like what you want to do, and they lead to different characters. And you want psychic, priest, wrestler guy. That's an interesting combination. Sure, choose him.
The absurdity of the characters in this game are one of the absolute joys of this game. Honestly, it's like the weirdest crap.
Yeah, they're like, seriously. But it's great.
Starkey, the little space alien.
Yeah, he's cool as fuck. And then you get a little dragon, right? Which is cool.
Dragon.
And then you get like a little Ayla, like a little caveman girl, just like little.
Yep.
And I'm like
Scully.
Yeah, and it's like, come on.
You go around the world picking up skeleton parts to put this dude together.
Come on, come on.
And he's a clown skeleton. Come on, that's great. Or fungi, the literal mushroom man.
Yeah, it's.
I love this game so much.
Yeah, it is a blast to play, and you know what? If people have issues with the story or issue with the whole fate thing, because that's a huge deal in it, and people, I don't know. I'm just gonna say that sometimes people don't realize how if they thought Chrono Cross was confusing, Chrono Trigger's confusing too. Both games they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. They're very complex. Has anybody ever tried to decipher Magus's background? It's fucking insane. You can't even try. You can't even do it. I remember I looked up some stuff about him. I'm like, what the fuck's going on with this guy? Like, holy crap.
I would argue that Trigger on the surface level is easier to understand. I mean, its plot is a lot more straightforward.
Right.
I can be objective and talk about Cross and look at its faults. Cross is not a perfect game. It definitely has faults.
It's a real quick, John. It's a flawed gem. That's what I like to call it. It's a beautiful flawed gem.
But you can look at Cross's story and you can say, yeah, all right. I mean, they spend a lot of time developing a story in the beginning and laying the groundwork for this epic adventure, and then it's very obvious, and this is well documented, that you get into the last act of the game, and the time constraints, the budget, whatever it was, hit the fan, and they just start exposition dumping at you. And I mean, you can tell that the end of the game was rushed because, I mean, for heaven's sakes, the final scene is literally a text crawl across the screen explaining what's going on.
And you know what? And you know what? Just interject. This isn't the only game that's been hurt like that with Expedition Dump. Xenogears, same thing, fucking thing.
Absolutely
happened to them. They got the guys who worked on it, the guys who now work on Xenoblade Chronicles, Monolith Soft. They got so pissed about that they went and made their own fucking game afterwards, their own company and everything.
Which, by the way, Xenosaga is a fantastic game. Just saying.
Right, and that has. You're talking about okay, hold on. Xenogears, Xenosaga, and then Xenoblade. So you're talking about Xenosaga, the PS2 ones?
Xenosaga, the PS2. And granted, I've only played the first one. I did start the second one, but without Mitsuda's music, it didn't grip me like I wanted it to.
Well, the biggest thing about those Xenosaga games is that there's so much fucking cutscenes in that game. It's like Metal Gear Solid 4 cutscene length. It's crazy.
It's true. It's true. But, remember I'm old, and so I like to just sit and nap during everything.
Oh, she's dead? All right. But here's the thing. So I brought up Xenogears, and that Xenogears was way ahead of its time. Even how botched it got, like on the second disc, it was just more Expedition Dumper story from what people told me and stuff. I've only played at least like 20 hours of it, but that 20 hours, I'm like, okay, I understand why this game got the reputation it deserved. So after all the development hell it went through and like whatever the budget or the crunch time, they had to cut stuff out and just shove it in there. It's still considered one of the best role-playing games of all time. And everybody, you look at anybody's top role-playing games you need to play before you die or something, Xenogears and Chrono Cross will always be on there, along with Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy and all that. So,
yeah.
The point is, Chrono Cross, it's okay if it's flawed. I think that's fine, because I don't care if I already get the max level like 20 hours before the game's done. I don't really give a shit about that. That doesn't bother me. I'm like, I'm having a great time. I don't mind being such a badass. I mean, shit.
And I'll tell you, I always tell people that ask if they should play Chrono Cross. The first thing I tell them is, well, you have to know what you're getting into, first of all.
You should say yes.
So, but I always tell people, I always recommend Chrono Cross. You have to understand that the people that go into these things wanting to have, something that's gameplay forward and requires a lot of strategy, grinding, whatever you want to say. People that enjoy like Final Fantasy 2 and 3, things that require you to actually go out and level up and upgrade your gear. Chrono Cross is not that game. Chrono Cross is about the story.
It is,
and the environment and the experience.
That's what Chrono Trigger's like too. It's smooth sailing.
It is. And if you're going into this looking for something that's gameplay first, Chrono Cross is probably not the game for you, because Chrono Cross is not a hard game, and I don't think that's a bad thing personally.
No, I don't. It's got great fucking replay value.
It's not a hard game, and it's really. It doesn't really require any strategy. I can literally play this game by just mashing X the entire time and really have no problem.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'm that type of gamer where I'm like, that's fine with me.
Yeah, and you know what?
But that really bothers some people.
Yeah, and oh crap, we didn't even talk about how we even got into Chrono Cross. So real quick, I got into Chrono Cross because I had there was 4 brothers. I was living in California at the time. This is when I was like 11 or 12, whatever. I lived in California for like 3.5 years. At the time, and then I moved to Florida. Dad worked for Boeing, job transfer, blah blah. Okay, so when I was at that 3.5 years, there's these 4 brothers. They were pretty much my best friends. I had one big older brother and then 3 brothers around my age. So I'm 32, so they're all around the same age. Older brother, anyway, close to 40s. Anyway, the oldest brother was the one that got me into Chrono Trigger. Because I saw the cartridge just lying on the ground next to a Super Nintendo, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? That cover art looks amazing on the cartridge. So I begged him to let me play it. He said no. Then I finally did like a solid favor for him, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, left an unborn child somewhere at a doorstep. He let me finally play it. And he's like, hey, I want you, okay, since I beat it on the Super Nintendo, he's like, I want you to play Chrono Cross. And let me tell you something. I love, just like what you said about Chrono Trigger, how much you appreciate it. As soon as I played Chrono Cross, I'm like, this game is fucking sweet. Like, this game is sick. And like, holy shit, this game's so fucking cool. Like, who are all these dope-ass characters? And music's amazing. Anyway, all this shit is happening, right? And then as soon as the job transfer happened with my dad for Boeing to go to move where I'm at in Florida, he's like, hey, I'm going to give you this. He gave me his fucking copy for Chrono Cross, and I still have it.
Man.
It was like this Chrisity, this rite of passage. And that's probably why Chrono Cross means so much more to me than Chrono Trigger. But like I said, I love them both, but for some reason, Chrono Cross to me, it's got so much heart to it. It's got so much fucking emotion. For from going to the amazing 2D sprites to the 3D models, they transferred it, from 2D to 3D is not easy transition, and they did such a great job to portray so much emotion. And that was back then when they had the fuzzy fucking character models and stuff. You can't even tell, like you said, like Surge's head is just fucking giant dysfunctional block or something, but it was so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
the games are completely related to me. I mean, there are so many deep dives you can go in to find out how they're related. I've really never understood the hate.
It's because it wasn't a true sequel.
I understand the hate. I can't process the hate because it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I get it. I get people are mad because they wanted to revisit the Chrono Trigger world with Chrono and Luca and Robo and
it's okay.
The other characters.
They're in Chrono Cross, just in a interesting
form. People wanted an adventure with the original cast, and I get that on some level, but I'm a bad person to talk to because generally speaking, I don't like sequels. I don't think unless they were planned from the very beginning, I don't think they work. Personally, and Chrono Trigger is a perfect example because you literally cross infinite time periods, going all the way to the end of time. You go on the most epic adventure to save the world through all the different eras of history. You fight this godlike space parasite that
lived underground for so long.
The inception of humanity, and then came up and destroyed the world and fed off of the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to you travel to the brink of time and destroy him outside of the timeline. Literally, this is the most epic adventure.
On the Super Nintendo!
How on earth could you possibly one-up that? I mean...
You can't! You just fucking can't!
It's the Marvel paradox to me. I have a problem with Marvel movies for the same reason, because you watch like Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange literally fights this godlike entity in space for what? He traps him in a time loop, and he's in it for like umpteen thousand years. Anyway, I forget what it is.
It was
ridiculous. Anyway, you go and you do that, and then you're supposed to believe that in the same universe, like Iron Man's out there fighting. Oh man, I'm gonna.
Thanos.
The superhero nerds are gonna. murder me on
Galactus.
this.
Thanos.
I don't know. Whoever he fights in the first movie.
Oh, he just fights another Iron Man type of guy.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is. You're trying to tell me that threat is as imposing as Doctor Strange's godlike entity and then Doctor Strange defeats the godlike entity and they make Doctor Strange 2, or they're making Doctor Strange 2. I'm like, how do you one up that? How do you one up fighting God for 10,000 years? How do you make it more entertaining and more dire than it was before? And it's the same thing with Chrono Trigger. How are you going to have a new threat that grips you and feels as important and as dire as fighting something like Lavos? And it just when companies try to do this, it always falls flat for me. It feels hollow because I'm like, the group can be like, well, this is like a Tuesday for me now because I've already fought like the most imposing foe in the universe.
Yeah. No, that's the thing.
So.
Yeah, keep going.
That's why Chrono Cross is so cool to me, because they literally found a way to make a sequel that actually feels relevant and important without disregarding or superseding or making anything from Chrono Trigger irrelevant. In fact, they tied them together in some of the coolest storytelling, in my opinion. Yeah.
So going off everything you said there, man, it was really hard not to interject. Oh, because you were saying all the things how I felt, and it was just like, oh my God, he knows me so well. So here's the thing, like you said, if it was the plan from the beginning to make this a sequel to Chrono Trigger wouldn't be Chrono Trigger. It just wouldn't, because this is a game that's literally like it's the only game you're ever gonna get because of what you do in it. You treat it like Final Fantasy, like Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 9, right?
Right.
It seems like those games are like, that's it. That's it. No sequel, except they made a lot of money off FF7, but that's neither here or there.
Well, see, but FF7 did the same thing because think
Yeah.
about it. All of their sequels and all the different stories, none of them use the original cast. I mean, some of them have the original cast in it, but none of them are.
But they don't play the same.
They're not taking the same adventure. They're not taking
no.
a new adventure together.
You just can't do it.
Apart from Advent Children, I don't think any of the 7 sequels take place after 7. I think they're all prequels.
Dirge of Cerberus is after 7.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure on that one. I never played it.
Don't worry, it sucks. At least I thought it sucked. So here's the thing. Like I said, Chrono Trigger was just supposed to be a standalone game. That's why Radical Dreamers was just a text-based adventure. It was just a kind of like, I don't know, maybe an epilogue, maybe something that they were just experimenting with, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? There's literally the writing's on the wall here. Let's see if we can make I would call it not a direct sequel, an indirect sequel in that regard. Because guess what?
Sure.
I always say Chrono Trigger is about the time, and then Chrono Cross is the other side of that coin, space, time and space, right? So you got the parallel worlds, you got those the dimensions, which is the space, and then you got Chrono Trigger with the time.
Well, and you think about it though. I mean, you call it an indirect sequel, and I would agree with you just because on the surface level that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you pay attention to the story, you do all the optional side quests.
It's it's
very much a direct sequel. It's just a different cast.
Yes.
And I was actually talking to a guy on Reddit the other day. That I met through doing some Cross Symphonic promotion.
Ooh.
And he started talking to me. We just kind of reminisced a little bit about Cross, and he made a great point that I thought was awesome in the sense that he was like, he always imagined Chrono Cross as being Scala or Shala, however you say her name.
Yeah.
Being her redemption arc, essentially.
Yeah.
It was her redemption arc. It was her time to focus on the story. And he was always under the impression that Chrono Break, the third game that never actually made it to real life, would have been Magus's, or Magus, however you want to say it. It would have been his redemption arc.
Yeah.
And so
cool.
I thought that was the coolest idea. It would kind of bring everything full circle. It would be like really the trinity of Chrono.
Yeah, because Magus and Scala, they're very, very, very tied together.
I mean they're siblings. So.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be pretty sweet.
But it's the coolest idea, and it really opens up the world again for a new cast of characters to take a part of. I always called him Magus, so I'm going to call him Magus, even though I think that's actually wrong.
I call him Magus.
I think that's probably more correct.
I used to call him Magus when I was a kid. So
yeah, I've heard people say that too. I just I attended public school, so I can't read.
Hey, theme here.
So
live live alive.
Yeah, right. Anyway, but having a Magus story, it opens up the universe to a whole new set of characters and a whole new dimension of gameplay that then can be connected to this Chrono universe and just enrich the entire world and story. Yeah. And that was another thing about Cross I thought was so cool is they took this world map that Chrono Trigger had, which are the Chrono Trigger world only feels large because you can experience it in like 5 or 6 different time periods or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's only 4. There's the prehistoric, 600 AD, present, future,
Middle Ages or whatever. Yeah, future, and then there's like 4, and then the end of time.
It's like 4
if you
or 5.
Count that.
Right. So it only feels large. You can experience it in all these different ages.
Yeah.
And so what they did with Cross, though, rather than try and expand on that world, and which would have been difficult in my opinion, because you'd have to take this tiny Super Nintendo map and you'd have to explode it in terms of just size and scale in order to make it work, especially in 3D.
Yeah.
But instead, what they did is they created an archipelago off the continent, which I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And they set up this entire story where the poor army came and took over this whole little archipelago in this kind of empire expansion.
Yeah.
So to speak.
And real quick, and then we'll do closing statements since running out of time. But I was just gonna say, Yeah, and then you go to two different worlds, parallel worlds of each other.
Right.
So it's just you kind of get an idea of what it's like if you died or if you didn't die. So
Right.
it's
Well,
really
and
cool.
it keeps the same type of mechanic that Chrono
Yeah.
Trigger had, in the sense that you could go through time and you could trigger these changes, and you could see the direct result of your changes
Mhm.
based on what time period you were in, which is always a cool mechanic of
And it's
Chrono
not
Trigger.
easy to do.
No. Well, but Chrono Cross carried the same thing. Even though it doesn't have time travel,
Uh-huh.
you can change things in each dimension, which have a ripple effect in the opposite dimension.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you want to know what?
which
Sorry, I was gonna
Sorry, go
say.
ahead.
You want to know what game that was doing that? That I read in this Final Fantasy Ultimacia book, if that's how you say it. For Final Fantasy VIII, they were trying to do that, and I think because in Final Fantasy VIII, you do go back in time and you play this guy named Laguna and his two friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the original idea was supposed to be you play the dad of Squall originally, and then you change some things in the past, and then it has like that ripple effect in the future. So depending on what you did in the past, boom. So it kind of reminds me of that with Chrono Cross with the different dimensions.
right. 8 is a whole other ball of wax that we'll have to get into sometime.
Yeah.
I
So
have very, very mixed feelings about that game.
oh, I hate 8 more than anything. Trust me. It has the worst opening act I've ever seen for a JRPG. Come on, School. Come on.
I would have to argue, not to completely derail this conversation, I'd have to argue that 8 is actually at its best all the way up until you confront the sorceress in whatever the city is called, the Night City or whatever.
Oh, see, I don't even know because I just can't. I just can't with 8. I've tried so many times.
Once you get past that, the story goes off the wall bonkers, and it just completely loses me. And usually a Final Fantasy game has a saving grace. If the story's bad, at least the gameplay is fun, or if the gameplay is bad, at least the story is really good, or the music, blah blah blah. Final Fantasy VIII has a great soundtrack, and that's really its only redeeming feature, in my opinion.
Yeah, I did nothing about that game. I really had no fond memories of. Usually bad, and I gave it multiple tries. So just closing statements about this. It comes out in April 7th. It's gonna be great to see what everybody says. Of course, I'm just gonna go with my best judgment because I fell in love with Chrono Cross as soon as I started playing the game, and I always appreciate the balls it took to make Chrono Cross because
Absolutely,
it is nothing unlike Chrono Trigger when it's battle systems, gameplay, exploration, and all that. In my opinion, well, there's some JRPG elements, retained, but you know what I mean. On the surface, you'd be like, whoa, these look completely different. But then, as you dig deeper and deeper, and you just think when Chrono Cross has nothing to do with Chrono Trigger, oh, you're sadly mistaken. It's that Chrono Cross is the whole iceberg effect in a nutshell.
right.
Start from the top, and then you go way deep, and then you're like, holy shit, what's going on? So anyway, I'm just super stoked. I'm excited we're having this conversation because of recent events and stuff. And people, you could tell how passionate we are about this because John did a whole symphonic album on this fucking game. That's how much it meant to him. I brought him on the show two times now because I'm very passionate about Chrono Cross, and it's one of my favorite JRPGs of all time, and it's I like it, and it's I like it more than Chrono Trigger, and that's I'm like in the minority. Oh,
yeah, we're gonna have to start a club or something.
Yeah,
seriously, all 4 of us.
So so if there's anything left you want to say, John, it's all you. Yeah.
If you guys love Chrono Cross, or even if you hate Chrono Cross but you love the music, you should check out Cross Symphonic. It's a 60-minute, or no, it's a 70-minute. It's a 70-minute experience, 17 tracks. And what I did was I tried to turn the soundtrack from Chrono Cross into a symphonic film score, so something along the lines of like Star Wars, or just kind of the classic Hollywood golden sound. But what I did is I took all of the music from Cross. Different themes that represented different characters at different locations, different events in the game, and I tried to weave them all together to create this seamless experience from start to finish that you can experience kind of the general overview of the game, the events, the characters, and the reviews that I've gotten back from it are pretty positive. I think people liked it. I certainly enjoyed making it. It means a lot to me. and it was recorded by a live orchestra and choir, so it's all real instruments.
Well, you know I liked it because I had you on the fucking show talking all
Yeah,
about it.
that's
so.
right.
There you go.
But you can check it. You can check it out on any platform: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, whatever you use. It should be available. Find a dark room, put on a nice pair of headphones, listen to it from start to finish with your eyes closed. I'm telling you, it's an experience.
Yeah, it's take it from me. It is fantastic. I bought the album from you digitally, and then I bought the posters, which I thought were badass. And
Thank you.
So last thing, John. I started listening to this Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross arrangement album by Yoshinori Mitsuda and Millennial Fair, and it really reminds me of your Cross Symphonic, of that whole journey, like you said, with kind of combining some songs together, and it makes it like one seamless process, like you really are on a grand adventure. Yeah. I'll send you the link to it. Maybe you already heard it, but
I know of it, and I've heard select songs from it. I haven't been able to sit down and.
It's really good. It really reminded me of how you did your Cross Symphonic, which I thought was great. So anyway, folks, John, it has been a pleasure. I'm glad to have you. It just took us almost a year to hang out again, but you know what? We're busy people, you know, doing busy things. But I'm glad it's Chrono Cross that brought us together in the end. And that's
thank you.
Chrono Cross. Chrono Cross
appreciate
is
you
that.
having me back on the show.
Yeah, anytime. And Chrono Cross is that timeless adventure to where, you know, setting sail for the One Piece. No, that's an anime. But anyway, you get the idea. So guys, I hope you get it. Check it out. You know, links will be down below in the description of where you can find John and I. And this has been the Niko Show. So take care, Pathfinders.